Karoline Leavitt went from dominating political debates to crying outside a courthouse. What started as a single sentence about Jasmine Crockett exploded into an $80 million storm that no one saw coming. It wasn't shouted, wasn't even stressed. It slipped out like punctuation, like the end of a thought. But the match was lit. The moment came during a Wednesday afternoon segment of American Flashpoint, a political talk show filmed out of Jacksonville. The panel was already hot: urban crime stats, partisan gridlock, fiscal priorities. But things took a turn when the host mentioned Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Karoline leaned in, tucked her hair behind her ear, and said, "She's not serious. She plays the part, emotional, dramatic, loud. That's her brand. She's not built for real policy." The room fell quiet. Just a second, a beat longer than it should have. One panelist audibly inhaled. Then the show moved on, but the audience didn't. Producers in the control room were already seeing texts from viewers. One intern clipped the comment and posted it to the show's Twitter account, hoping to stir engagement. It worked. Within minutes, it was everywhere. On TikTok, someone looped the phrase emotional, dramatic, loud, with slowed-down video and dramatic captions. It was dissected frame by frame: Karoline's tone, her expression, the slight smirk that followed. Strangers who'd never heard of either woman now had opinions. In a nail salon in El Paso, a woman shook her head at the video. "Why is it always the same stereotype?" In a factory break room in Ohio, a man said flatly, she knew exactly what she meant. Karoline, still in makeup, was watching the storm build in real time. At first, her notifications were supportive. "Tell it like it is. She's right." But within an hour, the tide turned. Angry comments, hashtags, accusations of racism. Her stylist glanced at the phone and murmured, "You sure about that? People look pissed." Karoline brushed it off. "They're always dramatic. It'll pass." But it didn't. By nightfall, the clip had gone viral. Political commentators weighed in. Even usually neutral voices shared it with captions like "Yikes." Late-night hosts made jokes. Colbert deadpanned, "That's the triple S stereotype speedrun." The crowd roared. Her stomach dropped. Behind the scenes, it was worse. Brands froze sponsorships. PR firms backed away. Her inbox was full of people asking, "What did you mean by that?" But still, no apology, no tweet, no statement. She believed it would blow over. She underestimated two things: how fast the internet moves and how far Jasmine Crockett was willing to go. The next morning, Jasmine stepped up to a microphone and made it official. And that's when Karoline realized this wasn't just trending. It was transforming into something bigger. The week before the courtroom hearing felt like drowning in slow motion. Karoline arrived in Austin early, hoping to steady herself. Instead, each day sank her deeper into panic. From her hotel window, the courthouse loomed, a brutalist shadow she couldn't ignore. News vans lined the curb, commentators prepped in nearby cafes, and pop-up podcasts set up to dissect the fallout. The lawsuit wasn't just legal anymore, it was cultural, social, and very, very public. Inside, her lawyer Miles drilled her twice daily: phrases to avoid, posture to maintain, tone to soften. But nothing hit harder than the thick file he slid. Across the table, Crockett's legal filing, annotated, highlighted, and surgically worded. Screenshots, emails, snippets of shows. Every sarcastic remark, every off-the-cuff line, now framed as evidence. Karoline paused on one page, an old live stream still of her mid-smirk, captioned, "Dismissive tone during housing segment." She almost laughed. Dismissive tone was, now Exhibit A outside, she was a villain. In cafes, people whispered. On YouTube, reaction videos flooded in. The trial hadn't started, but she'd already been judged. She texted Shay, her crisis advisor, "They're going to crucify me." Shay's reply was brutal. "Only if you carry the cross yourself." The witness list leaked next. former co-hosts, a producer, a consultant she barely remembered. Karoline stared at the names, each one a potential landmine. And then came the day. Reporters swarmed. She stepped out of the SUV like she was walking into a furnace. Inside the courtroom, Jasmine Crockett sat poised, calm. She didn't look angry. She looked certain. Opening statements landed like hammers. Jasmine's lawyer, Maxwell Dunn, didn't shout. He dissected. This was not a slip. This was a pattern, he said. A strategy of dismissing a woman of color to gain political traction. Then Miles countered. It was a political opinion, not hate speech, not defamation. But the jury didn't nod. They just listened. Then came the witnesses. First, Brenton, a quiet former producer. She knew what provoked reactions, he said. She called it pushing buttons. Then, emails. Big screen. Her own words. Keep her on edge. She always snaps. Use that. The courtroom shifted. Miles objected. Context. Editorial framing. But the room had already absorbed the impact. Then Jasmine took the stand. No dramatics. No raised voice. I expect disagreement, she said. But this wasn't about disagreement. It was about dismantling my credibility using a stereotype that follows women like me. Her voice cracked. Just once. But it hit like thunder. That narrative doesn't just disappear. It stains. Karoline looked down. She couldn't meet Jasmine's eyes. The rest of the trial blurred. Voice recordings, old clips, expert analysis. Then, deliberation. 3 long days. On verdict morning, the jury filed in. The forewoman read, in favor of the plaintiff, $12 million in damages, not 80. Karoline didn't return home right away. After the verdict, Austin didn't feel like punishment. It felt like limbo. So she stayed. Quietly. She walked unfamiliar streets, kept her hoodie up, and wore sunglasses even at dusk. The hotel suite was still hers, but she barely touched the bed. She slept on the couch, half-dressed, the TV on mute. Outside, the story had exploded. Every outlet had a take. Legal podcasts picked it apart. TikTok therapists diagnosed her reaction. Twitter spun into a war zone. But inside that suite, it was just her and silence. She didn't check her email. She didn't take calls. What was there to say? She had lost the case, lost the court of public opinion, and somewhere along the way, lost the benefit of the doubt. Her lawyer texted, "We'll appeal if you want." But Karoline didn't reply. What was she appealing? Justice, or the mirror she was now forced to look into? Then came the leak. It wasn't from court. It wasn't legal. It was personal. A voice memo, raw, private, recorded in her bedroom, suddenly surfaced online. She didn't even remember sending it. But there it was. Her voice, tired, bitter. "I'm not racist," she said. "But I'm not going to pretend every time someone disagrees with me, it's about their lived experience. This is theater." Jasmine's milking it. That one line, milking it for attention, became gasoline, memes, reaction videos, duets, parodies, her face, her voice, her words, everywhere. She dropped the phone. Of all the things, this broke her, because it was real. She had said it. She had meant it. And now the whole world knew. She didn't speak to anyone for 2 days. Not even her mom. Shay tried to reach her. "You can't disappear," she texted. "Not now." Karoline stared at the message for 10 minutes before replying. "Why not? I'm finished anyway." The reply came quickly. "Because if you vanish now, you become whatever they say you are. Forever." But what if they were right? She had built a brand on being sharp, composed, unapologetic. Now, in the aftermath, all that strength felt like armor that had fused to her skin. Impossible to shed. Impossible to live in. She tried recording a video, 4 takes, all deleted. She couldn't get the words out without sounding rehearsed or defensive. On the 5th try, she let the phone roll. No lighting, no filter. Just her, in a hoodie, sitting cross-legged on the carpet. I used to think being strong meant never blinking, she said softly. But maybe that was just fear. She didn't post it, not yet. But it sat in her drafts, and somehow that mattered. Then came the knock at the door. A courier, a letter, termination notice. Her network had let her go, officially. She stared at it for a long time. No email, no goodbye. Just a bullet point, effective immediately. The brand she'd helped build erased her with a single sentence. She went to the bathroom and sobbed, not the cute TV kind of cry, the real one, knees on the tile, head against the tub, choking on the weight of everything. She wasn't crying because she lost. She was crying because, for the first time, she wasn't sure she'd earned a win.